What's up, Cardinal fans? Steve Leslie, YSNLive.com, your home of Cardinal Mooney basketball all season long, and proud of it. Coach's Corner, sponsored by Bear Brothers, joined by the Cardinal Mooney head ball coach, Carey Palermo. First of all, Coach, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year, and thanks for being part of the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, so let's jump in, Carey. 8-2. We've talked before. You talked with Ron at the beginning of the year. Before we get started, I know how important head coaches rely on their staff. I guess let's start with go over to Cardinal Mooney basketball staff that does a great job in helping you.
All right, so my varsity assistants are Ralph Naples, a kid I used to coach when I was coaching freshman in JV at Ursuline High School. He's been on my staff for about 5 years. Jeffrey Shaheen, he's a former Cardinal Mooney standout. I think he graduated 2010 from Cardinal Mooney. He's been on my staff for 2 years. Jeff's kind of my offensive coordinator. Ralph would be my defensive coordinator. Those are guys I trust, and they do a tremendous job every day with our staff. Our JV coach is Jabri Carter. This is his first year on staff. He's been at Liberty last year. He runs an AAU program around the area. Jabri does a tremendous job with the JV. He's would be like our post player coach, our big men coach. Jerron Howell has been our freshman coach the last couple of years, another former Cardinal Mooney graduate. I think you coached him for a couple of years, Coach Leslie. He's coaching our freshman squad, and they're off to a heck of a start, as well as our JV team. Our JV is 6-3. Our freshman team, I believe, is 5-1 or 5-1 or 6 or 5 and no, excuse me. They're either 6-1 or 5-2 on the season thus far. And then rounding that out is Jordan Harbison. He kind of goes back and forth. He's kind of our skills coach, individual coach, does a lot of that stuff for us.
Well, before we jump into some basketball, boy, those are some names there for Coach Leslie. I coached you myself. It's glad to see Cardinal Mooney players coming back and helping out their program and alma mater. But I guess, Carey, my biggest question is, during this pandemic and during the times are we in, if I say that this high school basketball season truly is a day-to-day thing, what's your response to that?
100% correct. I would say before the season, like right around Thanksgiving, when numbers started to go up and whatnot, that was the most crazy time I've had in 5 years of being a head coach. At that standpoint, we decided to separate our teams.
Sure.
So our varsity only practices together. Our JVs and freshmen practice together because we have a number of freshmen that play JV. Because we were getting so many kids that, one kid would test positive, and then 23 kids had to be shut down. So we were splitting up practice. We started splitting up practices. In normal years, we would have kids go back and forth between JV varsity. We haven't been able to do that this year for that reason. There was all kinds of questions about what policies you would have to follow. If a kid had to be tested, should we just shut everything down, or do we wait till we get a result? But that's there was cases where I had 5 kids quarantined and 7 kids were allowed to practice. So you go into practice okay, we'll just have a coach practice today, and we'll do 4-on-4 shell when we do live. We've done more conditioning this year than we ever have, just because we've been shut down 2 different times in November. I think, though, once the season got started, it kind of got back to a little bit of normalcy, because people have just kind of like when the football season, everyone was like, oh, are we going to have a football season? Are we going to make it through? Once we got to week 1, there really wasn't any issues until we got to the playoffs and the weather started to change and whatnot. And that's kind of the same with us. Once we got to our first game and got moving, we're 10 games in, and knock on wood, we haven't, as far as varsity is concerned, we haven't missed anybody. We haven't missed any games regarding COVID.
Well, that's awesome to hear. When I hear 8-2, I'm kind of like you. I every day that I get up at YSN and we cover all these teams, we're proud of that. But when I see games being played, that makes me happy, because these kids and you and your staffs and all the staffs spend so much time. I guess before we get into the season, my question is that this COVID season, JV basketball and freshman basketball become vitally important because of the things that you talked about, not being able to incorporate those guys into a varsity practice. How key has that been for you to watch the success of both the freshman and JV teams as the future of the Cardinal Mooney Cardinals?
It's awesome. And make no mistake about it, we've gotten better the last couple of years, so that's going to attract better players to your program. And being able to see their success and being able to see the talent we have in the younger levels and seeing them buy into what it means to be a Cardinal Mooney basketball player. And Coach Leslie, you know about the rich tradition that we have in that program going back all the way to the 70s. That's awesome to see. And really, the last couple of years, seeing our kids buy into our system and buy into our standards, it really gets you excited going forward the next couple of years.
With Coach Palermo, Coach's Corner, home of the Cardinals all season long, sponsored by Bread Brothers. We're awful proud to cover Cardinal Mooney basketball. Carey, under these circumstances, the Limit fans, we're blessed to do what we do. How important is that for you from a YSN standpoint, for Coach Palermo, to, when you're not playing, to pop a game on and get a scout or watch things and learn some things, and for the kids even? Talk about the YSN experience a little bit.
So normally, if this wasn't there, I'd be going to games, right? Friday night, we're not playing. I'm going to go to a game. Tuesday night, Saturday night, we're going to go to games. So now, we'll bring my iPad or my computer. Sure. We go, if it's a Friday, we don't have a game, or a Saturday, me and my wife, we'll go out to the Avalon or something, and I'll put the computer up at our table, and we'll have a pizza and we'll watch the game and whatnot. Or, I can have sitting at our island and in our kitchen, I'll be watching a game. I'll watch Ursuline play. I'll watch, some of the coaches that I know from around the area play. And it's what you guys are doing is awesome. For the extended relatives, maybe the siblings that can't come to the game. And I can't tell you how many of the kids on our team will be like, "Hey, Coach, did you watch the game last night?" And we're like, "Yeah, absolutely." Or they'll be in our group text like, "Hey, is there a stream?" Well, yeah, YSN has this game. But if you go onto YouTube and just type in this, they're streaming that game, and they'll have their phone, their iPad, their computer up, and they'll be watching all these games.
Well, that's
I have a lot more kids scouting for me this year than I have in this past.
Good thing. And I'm going to shout out, because I've known you, Miss Tiff, your wife is a proud supporter of Coach Palermo and everything you do. So hats off to her from that standpoint. So with Coach Palermo, Coach's Corner, let's jump in. You're 8-2. How pleased are you with the start?
I'm extremely pleased because our kids have bought into our program and bought into our system, and they've really just embraced the roles that we've asked for each and every one of them. We had a game this past Friday, we had to handle a little bit of adversity during the game, and I was really proud of how our kids responded. Talking to them yesterday morning at practice, we would have liked to get the last 4 minutes of that game back. We've been shooting about 71% from the free throw line this year as a team. Friday night, we were 6 of 19. We ended up losing the game in overtime. Going into overtime, we were 5 of 15 from the free throw line. And I don't think the kids knew that stat till Saturday morning. When I told them that, you could just kind of see the disgust on their face. And it stinks, but it's also they realize yeah, that's something we have to do if we're going to win, and we're going to get that corrected.
Great learning lesson for sure. Big injury Friday night, Mr. Pelini. First of all, Carey, he is a phenomenal basketball player. I've been able to watch a lot of games. I am impressed with Pelini, obviously. The other two seniors, those guys lead this basketball team. Talk about the injury and talk about those seniors a little bit.
So it's talking about the first four again, the injury, the senior class between Michael Pelini, Thomas Fire, Anthony Elenos, Lawrence Williams. They're all program guys, have bought into us since day one. Obviously, Thomas and Michael kind of lead the charge when you're looking at the headlines as far as scoring and their production from that standpoint. And those guys are the two out of our three vocal leaders, with our junior Mick Hergenrother being in there. They've been tremendous for us, not just in the games that you guys see, whether it's practice or off-season conditioning and workouts. Starting June 1st, we were going 5-6 days a week, 3 days in the gym and 3 days doing conditioning with Challenge Performance. Those are things that, when they can do their conditioning and weight training, I'm not there for that. Those guys take charge in that, and those guys made sure we had 12 to 15 guys there every day.
Well,
yeah.
That is, and that's one of the keys. You've been around a lot of great programs, that senior commitment. And, from all of us at YSN, our thoughts are with Michael Pelini on a quick healing.
Yeah.
about that. Hopefully come back for the end of the year. For all the Cardinal Mooney fans and YSN, we'll do player profiles, Carey, with all the seniors. I look forward to getting those set up with you and go from there. Let's jump into this week for Cardinal Mooney, your opponents, and some thoughts on this week.
All right, so we got a big week coming up. Tuesday we have Chaney. Friday we have Ursuline. So those are two conference games. Obviously, Ursuline being the big rivalry game.
Games that you're quite familiar with in the Coach Palermo coaching tree. Two great teams. Let's go, Chaney. First, your thoughts. Just getting back. I've watched them, Carey, a little bit. Athletic, talented, big challenge for the Cardinals.
For sure. They have a lot of size. They have a lot of length. They're very athletic. They're very skilled. They're three guys. They're three stars they have back: Lawrence, Taylor, and Jones. We played them twice last year. They got us twice. The first time I played them was a very competitive game, back and forth. They ended up pulling away. The second game, they kind of jumped on us in the third quarter, and they kind of ended it there quick. But those are two games that we expect to win going in. Those are conference games. Those are games that we circle on our schedule. Even though we don't have Michael for that game, our kids fully expect to go in there and compete and win.
Then you go into Friday night, obviously. You're one of those guys like myself who are able to coach at Cardinal Mooney and Ursuline. I love both places. I know your relationship with Coach Gunther is solid. There's a friendship there. But come Friday night for those hour and a half, it's game on between two storied programs. What's it like to coach in that basketball game for fans that don't understand it?
For fans who don't understand it, you're talking about kids that, for the most part, or at least our kids. I mean, our kids are all parochial school kids. I don't know where those kids at Ursuline, where the majority of them come from, but they know the kids on both sides from the fifth grade on, competing in sports, competing in extracurricular activities and whatnot. You go to those games when you're a kid, the Ursuline Mooney games. I remember sitting in the balcony when I was in the grade school and whatnot, watching those games. You get something out of the players that I don't think they know they can play as hard as they can, but that night they get to that level. There's always something a little bit extra. I know we don't have the crowd as we had in the years past, but the fans that are there, I bet you they're going to scream a little bit louder. I bet you they're going to hang on every call from the official and whatnot. Seeing the preparation that goes into those games, and then, whether you come out with a win or a loss, being in the locker room after the game, if it's a win, guys celebrate a little bit more. It means a little bit more. If it's a loss, it's more quiet. Guys are kind of sitting there, and it's kind of tough to console them. It's a special game to be a part of as a player and a coach, and being able to be on both sides. It's something that I don't take for granted.
There's no doubt about that. You do a great job with Coach Palermo, Coach's Corner, sponsored by the Bear Brothers. We'll have both of those games, Cardinal Mooney fans, Tuesday night and Friday night. Carey, before I let you go here, last question, your keys to a couple victories this week. So
I think on Tuesday night, Chaney wants to get up in you. They want to turn you over. They want to intimidate you. I'm not I'm not going to cut any corners here. If you can handle their pressure and keep them off of the glass, they're going to struggle in the half court. Not that we want to make it a half-court game. We're averaging about 60, 61 points a game.
Right.
But if we can handle their pressure and don't give them easy buckets in transition, there's no reason we can't beat them. As far as Friday night, kind of the same thing. We had some success against them last year. We swept Ursuline last year, being able to take away a couple things they like to do with their offense. I don't really want to give a lot away, but if we can do that similar to what we did last year, we feel pretty confident going to that game as well. But it's the same thing. If you could control the boards a little bit, if you could take care of the basketball, and Coach, I mean, if you can make a team work for, everything they get offensively, and just maybe limit the easy buckets and maybe get a couple easy buckets on your end. It always, when you look at the end score, there's always a number you want to get to, and you're probably going to win.
Right.
We know if we get to 60 points, the 5 years I've been there, we've only lost 4 times when Cardinal Mooney has scored 60 points in my 5 years. So
to get to from all of us at YSN, we appreciate you. And again, I'm just going to say it, fans at Cardinal Mooney. Carey, you represent Cardinal Mooney very well. You do a fantastic job. Best of luck this week, and we'll talk again next week and review the Chaney and Cardinal Mooney, or the Ursuline Cardinal Mooney basketball game next week.
I appreciate it, Coach.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Go Browns.